You may have heard one of our famous country and western singers and songwriters wrote one of his famous songs around here. Have you heard of the song, "You Picked a Fine Time to Leave Me Loose Wheel"? Kenny Rogers wrote that song right here. Well, we're almost up to the top of the rim right now. That little knob of the Cap Rock is the top. Some spectacular views. Cap Rock is just a layer of really extra hard rock that sort of almost acts as a roof and protects the softer rock layers below. Wow. Alex, it's a nice smooth job you're doing. Nice job, young man. That was a windy, twisted thing. That was nice of you to let those people go by, too. Some don't. They don't follow the law. They just go there and stay in the way. If you have 5 or more, you need to get out. 1 or 2, about 5. We get a big fine. There's a police behind us and we don't see it. Yeah. They're gonna find it very, very hard. All right, we're going to be up here. You can't get a view. There are too many vehicles to stop, really, but if you get a look to the right, that's looking down the canyon, Oak Creek Canyon, where we were. And just down at the end of that canyon is Sedona, where we just spent our time. We're up here at the top. We're now on top of the Colorado Plateau. It's anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 feet high.
A lot of snow here, huh?
Yeah, well, there probably will be. Later on, I'm hoping to show you. It's beautiful to see. I hope we get some Indian snow that we can show you. Now, this is a scenic view up here. If you do have time, it's quite kind of interesting. Again, so many of the Indians rely still on selling of their beads and baskets and pottery and so forth. So you see some of these cars. There's roughly about 80 concrete picnic tables, and what they do, the Forest Service allows the Indians. It's just open. They allow the Indians to set up their wares on their concrete picnic tables, so they allow them to put out, they'll like put a blanket down and put their jewelry or pottery down there and try to sell it. It's a direct way. They're on a rotation system, apparently. Each Indian craftsman gets about a day a month, so it's just depending on how many people are around. This is Ponderosa pine up here. It's a very common wood up here at the high altitudes in Arizona. It goes clear into New Mexico. And if you'll notice, it's now growing in thickets. Later on, you'll see maybe a little bit more of an explanation, but I don't know if it looks like a healthy forest to you or not, but it's not really. If you look to the right here by this pond, you see the very big ones. Those are called blackjacks, and those blackjacks are the mature trees, and they're supposed to be about every 100 feet. Not at all in a very precise, but as we're traveling along here, if you look at how close some of these trees are. So we had in the 50s and 60s and 70s, we had a big push by the U.S. Forest Service, unwisely, called Smokey the Bear. Can you see the little thickets all over here? Here's another one on the right. So what these trees will do, if there's no fire, they have thousands of little seedlings and a whole bunch of little tiny trees try to grow up and compete for sunlight. And what that does is weaken all the trees. Instead of having 1 or 2 really big, healthy, strong trees that produce good, healthy pine cone seeds themselves, then you have all this, a little thicket. I think around here they call it a dog patch. So that means an unhealthy forest. And then diseases come, and about every 10 years a disease comes, like you can see all these dead trees, and wipes about half of them out. So you're saying, but wait a minute, you're not saying that we should have forest fires, and that's exactly what we're saying. You have to have forest fires. If you have common and average calmer forest fires, they will burn at a lower temperature. So they say that on average about every 7 years, every acre of the west should be on fire from a lightning strike or whatever. And what that does, it burns this light brush along, and it keeps a low and cool fire. Whereas if the trees have had no fires in them, all of them put out by man for 40 years, then you've got a lot of fuel, and a lot of it's up overhead. And it's a lot of dry and unhealthy trees. So they burn hot to the point where all the land is actually sterilized when a fire does go through. So we've learned that we did the exact opposite of what we should have done by putting all the forest fires out. So now the only thing you can do about it is go out at millions of dollars of labor expense and have people saw them down with a chainsaw and then pile them up, and then in the wintertime when it's snowy and not going to really burn the forest down, burn the piles. Every now and then you'll see piles around. This is a good example. That thing on the right needs thinned out. About 3/4 of those trees need to go. So you can see the trees are straining to live. Their needles are brown. They're not getting enough nutrients. This wood has commercial use. It's use of back in the 50s and 60s. Pretty much every American family had knotty pine wood paneling in their kitchen, and this is where it comes from. Dark brown or maroon colored knots in a white soft wood. It's not terrifically strong, the pine, and there's a lot of knots, so they've developed a machine that cuts out the knots and puts little finger-shaped joints and glues them together so you can make continuous boards, and it's mostly used for like baseboard and casing, trim, crown molding and stuff. A lot of commercial value to it, but it's got to be better managed, and that means they've got to get fires back in here to clear out the underbrush. And also when the fires occur, the cooler fires in the ashes is NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potash, which all the healthy trees need to live as well. All right, we'll be coming out of this. Looks like not a cloud in the sky. So before too long, we will be up here. We'll make a turn, hoping to show you some Indian snow, and then we'll be in Flagstaff. Be back in a minute.